if you touch it a certain way, it releases.
Welcome to my backyard. I'm here with Beautyberry, Calicarpa americana, and a group of our community herbalist students that will be here hanging out, asking questions, hopefully. Today we're talking about Beautyberry. I'm Maggie O'Halloran. I'm one of the educators at the Florida School of Holistic Living. We're in my backyard here in Central Florida, where we know it's fall because the beautyberries are around, except in my backyard. This was full of those beautiful berries. I can show you where they once were until the birds and the squirrels found them. They have those beautiful dark red or purple berries that circle that stem. Usually you can see where they once were. And many of us here in Central Florida know that fall is upon us when we see those berries. Stick around for another video if you want to hear a great recipe using those berries. I typically find myself munching on a couple. They don't have a lot of flavor. They're kind of mushy and flavorless, but they're full of antioxidants. So it can be really fun to throw onto a salad just for a pop of color, a little different texture. And Peggy Lance, a local edible plant guide, talks about making beautyberry jelly. It's a very common thing to use with those berries, and a great way to access excess beautyberries. But as you can see, I don't really have any excess in my backyard because the birds and the squirrels enjoyed them, called them dinner or breakfast, whatever they had. And I'm glad about that because I live in an urban environment where those birds and squirrels don't have as many of the beautyberries around, because this is a plant that you often find in wooded areas, out on hikes. It's not typically a landscape plant in the way that I use it here. The leaves, I can bring one in closer, have a plant constituent in them, calicarpanol, that helps or may repel mosquitoes. And we know these leaves because of their shape. Nice big leaves you can see compared with my hand. It's almost the same size. And they have the leaf margin there, and the back side is a little fuzzy. Within this leaf is a plant constituent that may repel mosquitoes. One of my most common ways of actually using this, other than those wonderful berries out when I'm hiking, is if I have forgotten bug repellent. Now, this is not going to be as effective as DEET or something more hardcore like that type of bug repellent, but it helps. So if you're out on a hike and you find yourself really, without anything, and you found beautyberry and you can identify beautyberry, it looks like this much of the year. During the winter, it will drop its leaves. So if you decide to have it as a landscape plant, you'll want to know that a lot of the leaves are going to fall off during the winter. It doesn't love the cold, and Florida winter becomes fall with the falling of the beautyberry leaves. So these leaves, you can access that calicarpanol by rubbing that leaf on your skin. It's decent. Some people say it feels helpful because you're rubbing your existing mosquito bites. I think it is better than not having any bug repellent on. So that's how you would use it. If you were just using the leaf, you're really gaining access to the cells of that plant material by really crumpling it up. Calicarpanol by tincturing the beautyberry leaves along with some other plant material that has a nice strong scent, high in those essential oils, plant like rosemary or even camphor that is invasive here in Florida, to make a bug repellent. To do that, I would find any jar. And I know I have It's not necessarily new, but store-bought jar just for doing things like this, but you can use almost any jar. Pasta jars, pasta sauce jars work just fine. Coconut oil jars, like whatever you have on hand. Just make sure it's glass, and make sure that whatever lid you're using, you can clean, because you don't want to end up with pasta sauce in your Beautyberry tincture because, well, mold, bacteria. You don't want that. So you start with any jar, and add leaves and bundle them up in the same way that you saw before. Really just start the action of those plant cells breaking down a little bit. Plant cells have kind of a harder outer edge, so it's nice to give them a chance to open up as you're crumbling. You know, as a cell, I'm not sure what I'm actually doing here, but I know that it helps to release the aspect that is the bug repellent. So I would fill my jar with plant material, and I'm using fresh plant material, so I'd grab some fresh rosemary and cut it and put it in, and possibly some camphor leaves and put it on. And because this is just for topical use, this is not beautyberries, I never put in my mouth. I've seen no historical uses of beautyberry in that way. So it's just for topical use. So for this tincture, I'm going to use something that's just for topical use, and that is witch hazel. Also something I would never put in my mouth. It's just on the skin. You probably recognize witch hazel either because you're already making all kinds of wonderful herbal products, or because you might use it as a skin toner on your face. And witch hazel has that nice astringent quality. It's nice for drying out skin or conditions where you have maybe a bug bite. Just having a toner like witch hazel on a bug bite can cause relief. It can give you some relief. So when I am making my bug repellent, it's topical use only, so I would use witch hazel as my liquid in making that tincture. I'd put in plant material up to about 3/4 of that jar, put it in, and then fill the jar completely with witch hazel, cover it, label it, really important part, label it, let it sit for 4 to 6 weeks shaking regularly, and then strain out that plant material. Once you do that, you have a nice liquid that could cause staining. Notice the color of this, it could stain clothes, so I would be mindful of wearing white. And then I'm able to use this wonderful bug repellent liquid into any spray container I have around. This one is a fresh new container. You can wash out the room sprays that you might pick up from the store that have these type of stop droppers on them. Just make sure you can clean it. I'm all for reusing. I'm going to have to put it down. If you have a steady hand, I have a shake, so everything requires this little funnel, but if you have a steady hand, you could probably pour this in without the fancy funnel. There, bug spray. It has rosemary in it, so it smells really good too. You can use lavender, rosemary, any strong scented plant that you have around. And you can see when I spray it on, it's kind of brown, so I want to be mindful of that and not stain clothing. But it works. It's a decent bug repellent. Any questions?
Are there any known contraindications for Beautyberry, like with certain skin conditions or other types of conditions you wouldn't want to use it in?
Great question. I know of no contraindications for anything with Beautyberry on the skin. I know none. Doesn't mean they don't exist. I just don't know them. Great question. Anybody else using Beautyberry in your bug repellent?
No, but I'm going to start. That was really good.
Super easy.
Would you mix in like essential oil to get a scent, like the lavender, or would you go straight for the plant?
Great question. Great question. So when just use plant material. If you wanted to add essential oil, you could, but you would just add it at the end. So maybe I would add it at this point. Just put a drop or two in here, and a little bit goes a long way. And because this is witch hazel, the essential oil will blend with the witch hazel. If this was just water, it wouldn't. You'd have to shake it every time, like you might with a room spray.
So Maggie, if you were using fresh lavender, you would put it directly in with the leaves?
Yeah, so lavender flowers or the leaves you can use in this. I grow lavender here in Central Florida, and lavender leaves I have year-round, but the flowers are only occasionally. And those leaves work really well. They have a really nice, strong scent, so you can add those as well. Yeah.
Try that.
Great questions.
You don't water down the witch hazel?
I don't water down witch hazel. Nope, I take it straight from my container. Just make sure your witch hazel is designed for putting on the skin.
Can you ever ingest witch hazel? I mean, it is an herb.
I'm
I've
not.
never heard of that.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any situation of ingesting witch hazel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just for topical use only. Yeah, it is a product of working with plants, witch hazel, but it is a distillation process of using witch hazel, so it's not something we're using internally, as far as I know. Any questions? Thank you. Thanks for joining me in my garden. Thanks for being here and asking great questions. We'll see you next time.